Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Charlie. On today's episode, I'm going to be showing y'all how to make my delicious beef and broccoli fettuccine Alfredo pasta. Look at that. Looks wonderful, doesn't it? Now, this is not your traditional Alfredo recipe, of course. It's more of a non-traditional Americanized version. It consists of strips of beef steak, broccoli, fettuccine pasta, swimming in a delicious, creamy, homemade, Americanized Alfredo sauce. So instead of using that same old chicken or seafood, why not try it with steak? This recipe calls for about 4 to 6 servings. It's a different take on a fettuccine Alfredo pasta, but it is absolutely delicious. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, here's all you'll need to make your beef broccoli fettuccine Alfredo pasta. Let's get started with our ingredients. You'll need 1 pound of top sirloin steak, 12 ounces of broccoli, and along with that, you're going to need some heavy whipping cream, salted butter, olive oil, better than bouillon beef base, white wine, shredded Parmesan cheese, and for your seasonings, you'll need 1 yellow onion, garlic, some fresh parsley, salt, black pepper, Tony Saturated Creole seasoning. Now, if you don't have this, you can use the Zatarain's Creole seasoning or the Stop Your Mama Cajun seasoning. You will also need some Chef Paul Prud'homme's Poetry Magic, and of course, I use that near all of my dishes. You will also need some granulated onion, granulated garlic, and some fettuccine pasta. And for your tools to tenderize the beef steak, you're going to need a meat mallet. And there we have it. Alright, let's get straight to it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started by chopping up half of a yellow onion. Okay, here I have 3 cloves of garlic. I went on ahead and cut them in half. Okay, here I have a garlic press. And I'm going to press the garlic. And there we go. And while I'm at it, I'm going to rinse off my fresh parsley. Okay, next I'm going to rinse off my broccoli with cold water. And I'm just gonna cut a small amount of this off. And from there I'm going to chop the parsley up until it is minced. Now we're going to cut the stem off of the broccoli. We're only going to use the broccoli florets. So we're just going to cut this off. Same thing with the other one. You could take the stem and just do whatever you want with it. It don't really matter. From there, we're just going to separate the broccoli florets. Alright, and this is how it looks when we're done. Okay, I placed my top sirloin steak into this mesh strainer. And I'm going to rinse the steak off with cold water. Now, I like to do this step to rinse off any blood or particles that might be on the steak. Okay, next I'm going to take some napkins and I'm just going to pat the steak dry. Next, I'm going to take the meat mallet. I'm going to use the side with the spikes on it. And I'm going to hit both sides of the steak with this. I'm basically tenderizing the steak. Okay, next I'm going to lightly sprinkle some salt onto both sides of the meat. Just spread that around like that. Next, I'm just going to take my knife and I'm just going to cut the steak into strips. Any strips that appear to be too long, you can cut those in half. Okay, and this is how it looks when we're done. Preheat your fire to medium heat. Okay, let's get started with cooking our fettuccine pasta. So in this medium-sized pot, I have about 2.5 to 3 quarts of simmering water. And while I'm at it, I'm going to add about 1.5 teaspoons of salt. And I'm just going to give that a quick stir. Add your fettuccine pasta right on in there. I'm going to just add it in there like that. Now it's going to stick out the pot, but once the pasta begins to cook, it's just going to be able to go down into the pot. Okay, we're 2 minutes into the simmering process. So now I'm just going to take my spoon and I'm going to stir it now. Let this simmer for about 12 to 14 minutes. All right, it's been about 12 to 14 minutes now, and our fettuccine pasta is done. Make sure that you take a small amount of the pasta and put it on the side and have a taste of it to see if it's at your desired texture and to make sure that it is thoroughly cooked. Now you're going to go ahead and turn your fire off. Add your fettuccine pasta into this medium-sized mesh strainer. Ooh, that is hot. Ooh. Now I'm going to let the pasta cool in the mesh strainer until it's warm, or you can let it cool completely. I'm not going to rinse it off or anything. Preheat your fire to medium heat. Okay, let's get started with parboiling our broccoli. So in this medium-sized pot, I have about 1.5 to 2 quarts of simmering water. And to that, I'm going to add about 1 teaspoon of salt to that. Give it a quick stir. Add your broccoli. Give it a quick stir. Let this simmer for 2 minutes. All right, it's been about 2 minutes now. Broccoli should be nice and tender. Now you're going to go ahead and turn your fire off. Add your broccoli into this small mesh strainer. Ooh, that is hot. Let this cool until it's warm. Okay, let's get started with cooking our steak. Now in this large saucepan, make sure that it's not preheated or anything like that. I'm going to add about 1 teaspoon of olive oil. And I'm going to just spread that around the saucepan. And from there, I'm going to preheat my fire to medium heat. Let this get hot for 1 minute. Add your steak strips. Give this a quick stir. Let this simmer for about 2 to 3 minutes. All right, it's been about 2 to 3 minutes now. And as you can see, our steak has released a lot of juice. That's exactly what we're looking for. Okay, here I have a small mesh strainer with a small bowl underneath it. I'm going to just take the steak pieces with the little bit of steak juice that I have, and I'm just going to add that into this mesh strainer here. I'm going to just take the steak and I'm going to just shake it. Okay, and while this is still hot, I'm going to add about 1/2 teaspoon of the Better Than Bouillon beef base. Just add that in there. And I'm going to take my whisk and I'm just going to stir this until that beef base has dissolved into the steak pan juices. And once done, you should have about 1/3 cup of the steak pan juices. All right, let's get started with making our beef Alfredo sauce. So in the large saucepan, the same saucepan that we sauteed the beef strips in, I'm gonna add 5 tablespoons of cubed salted butter right on in there. I'm gonna just spread that around. And I'm gonna let that melt. Next, I'm gonna add about 1/2 cup of my chopped yellow onion. Give this a quick stir. I'm going to let this saute for about 3 to 4 minutes, stirring occasionally. Add your 3 cloves of pressed garlic. Give this a quick stir. Add 2 1/2 cups of heavy whipping cream. 1/4 cup of white wine. Remember our pan juices from our steak, and we combined that with the Better Than Bouillon beef base. We prepared that earlier. We're going to pour that right on in there. I'm going to call this my concentrated beef base. Now let's add some seasoning. Now you want to be careful with the seasoning because it is pasta and we don't really need to add too much. So I'm going to add about 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/8 of a teaspoon of black pepper, 1/4 teaspoon of Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning, 1/4 teaspoon of Chef Paul Prud'homme's Portrait Magic, 1/2 teaspoon of granulated onion, 1/2 teaspoon of granulated garlic, and about 1 to 2 tablespoons of fresh parsley. Stir all your ingredients together. Smelling wonderful already. Let this simmer for 3 minutes, stirring occasionally. Next, I'm going to add about 1/3 to 1/2 cup of shredded Parmesan cheese. Add that in there. Stir all your ingredients together. Let this simmer for about 3 minutes, stirring occasionally. Add your steak strips and your broccoli pieces. Stir all your ingredients together. Let this come back up to a simmer, and from there let it simmer for about 1 to 2 minutes, stirring occasionally. Now you're going to go ahead and turn your fire off. Next I'm going to add, this is 1 pound of cooked fettuccine pasta. Add that in there. Stir all your ingredients together. And from there, your beef and broccoli fettuccine steak pasta is done. Now for some quick tips, you're going to let this cool for about 30 minutes to an hour before serving, so that way the flavors can settle and increase. The mixture will thicken as it cools. It's already thick. And for best results, serve this the very next day, and that way the flavors can settle and increase overnight. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Beef broccoli fettuccine Alfredo pasta, made by New Orleans native. If you like my channel, hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell button if you want to be notified of my videos. I have an official website for all of my recipes, including for this delicious homemade beef broccoli fettuccine steak pasta. You can go to www.charliethecookandrews.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter under the name Charlie the Cook Andrews. Stay tuned as Charlie's Taste Test is coming up next. Can't wait. Now it's time to go ahead and take a bite. I absolutely love the flavor of this. It has a wonderful beef flavor. That steak is nice and tender. And the pasta, the Alfredo sauce itself, it has, like I said, it has a wonderful beef flavor along with those seasonings that we've added. And the broccoli and the cheese and that wine brings out all the flavors. Delicious. It's a different take on a fettuccine Alfredo pasta. Instead of using that same old chicken or that same old seafood, try it with beef. You might like it. It's delicious. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, have a good one. Peace.